2017's It is one of the best of Stephen King's works brought to life on the big screen, and there's one crucial scene from this movie that makes the entire thing work. Play the clip. Hey, welcome back to ScreenCrush. I'm Colton Ogburn, and the projector scene from It is hands down the most important scene of that movie. Without it, the whole film would fall apart. So let me tell you why, and then we'll do a deep dive breakdown of the scene itself. And a little later, I want to talk about how this projector scene perfectly takes the place of the infamous sex scene from the book that left many readers understandably uncomfortable, and how this scene in the film, even better than the source material, illustrates the point that King was trying to make with that sex scene. So up until this moment in the film, each member of the Losers Club has encountered Pennywise alone. They are fragmented, uncertain, and alone as It takes advantage of their trauma. In Bill's vision, he sees It as his dead brother's ghost, representing Bill's greatest fear and what haunts him the most, that loss of his brother to Pennywise. Bill lives in this constant state of guilt for the loss of his brother because Bill was sick that day that Georgie went out to play alone in the rain, and it was Bill who made Georgie that paper boat. What a nice boat. Beverly's first encounter with It is demonstrated through this eruption of blood from her sink, which is meant to symbolize her fear of womanhood, and later in the film we see her having to buy tampons alone, no mother to give her guidance, and a creepy-ass father at home who is 100% abusing her. As for Eddie, he comes face to face with a rotting leper, a fear that embodies the abuse and trauma that he has endured from his mother, who pretends that he's sick and has made him terrified of the outside world in hopes of him never leaving her and always having to depend on her, essentially Munchausen syndrome by proxy. Ben is chased by a headless corpse from the horrors of Derry's history that he's been reading about all summer. This symbolizes Ben's loneliness and lack of friends, which is why he has spent all of his time in the library. Mike sees his parents burning corpses, a traumatic event from his past that haunts him daily, and this also explores themes of long-standing racism that exist within Derry. And it's also a nice touch that Mike is haunted by his past and how that foreshadows that he will become the one loser that still remembers the events of this film when they are adults. Stanley sees this creepy-ass distorted lady from a painting, representing Stanley's disdain for the unnatural and anything out of the usual order. He becomes easily overwhelmed at the slightest things, and again, this is foreshadowing how in the sequel, Stanley will take his own life when re-encountered with the presence of It. As for Richie, well, Richie doesn't actually have his first encounter with It until the group comes together in this projector scene, and that's significant to who Richie is as a character and how he becomes the reluctant hero. There's also the fact that Richie, as we learn in the sequel, is gay, but he buries that secret deep, deep down, and this suppression of his true feelings and true self contribute to Pennywise's inability to tap into Richie's fears, at least at first. Now, these moments where each loser encounters It on their own is meant to represent how when divided and scared, the losers are vulnerable. Their fears and feelings of loneliness make them easy targets, and It feeds on their fear.
Or maybe it knows what scares us most, and that's what we see.
You know, when I get anxious, I have this bad habit of biting my lower lip, and I do it without thinking about it, and it always ends up causing my lips to get really chapped, and it's painful, and frankly, it looks weird when I'm around other people.
Then let's cut off your face.
Well, no, let's not. The thing is, I know a lot of you have your own bad oral fixation habits that you're always reaching for without thinking about it. Maybe it's out of stress, boredom, or just wanting to fit in. Well, that's where Fume comes in. It's not about quitting, it's about replacing. Fume, the sponsor of today's video, offers a simple and enjoyable way to break away from bad habits while still having something satisfying to reach for. Fume is an award-winning flavored air device that has great taste without harmful chemicals. Instead of inhaling vapor, you breathe in natural, non-toxic flavors that satisfy your bad habit with none of the downsides. But it's especially great because it gives my hands something to do. I love their solid wood design with this magnetic fidget that makes an incredibly satisfying sound. It is great for relieving stress or helping me stay focused. It's a great design, it feels light in your hand, and it's portable. You can take it to work, traveling, to the movies, or just chill at home. But best of all, you can pick your own personal flavors and swap out the flavor cores when you want. Personally, I like crisp mint, but Fume offers tons of different flavors, so there's something for everyone. More than 500,000 people have already made the switch to Fume as part of their habit-changing journey. And you can be their next success story for a limited time if you order the Journey Pack using using my code ScreenCrush, you'll get a free fume topper, an awesome accessory that's great for chewing and fidgeting and just satisfying your cravings. So click the link tryfume.com/ScreenCrush or scan the QR code on screen to get yours today. Now, back to what I was saying. Up to this point in the film, the losers have bonded over their shared outsider status, but for them to truly become one unified front against it, they have to bond over something beyond just their shared loneliness. And that bond of trust, respect, and love for each other comes when they stop seeing each other as fellow losers, but true friends. And this is signified by their willingness to face their fears together. And we even get this great moment where that bully girl had written loser on Eddie's cast, but he then wrote over it with a red marker, making it say lover.
Oh, they're lovers now? Ew.
Yeah, I guess you could say that was like a vague reference to that scene from the book where they all consummate their love and unity, losers to lovers. Sure. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, super quick. There's a scene in the book after they defeat it for the first time as kids, and they're all like feeling disoriented and like they're drifting apart, and Beverly initiates sex with each of the boys as a way of connecting them all for life. Now, Stephen King himself has admitted that the scene is a little much and that his intention was never to sexualize the kids, but rather just a story beat meant to represent the central theme of the book, which is the transition from childhood to adulthood. It's a story about puberty, and that again is the theme of this film. But the film, all due respect to Mr. King, it found a new way to elicit that same point without needing to have that scene from the book. And that replacement is this projector scene. The projector scene is the first time the losers experience Pennywise together. Pennywise, which represents all of their shared trauma and shared loneliness and fears of the future as well as the past. This shared experience transforms their abstract fear into a collective reality, forcing them to see that they aren't alone and pushing them to act as a unit rather than just 7 scared children. This transition from individual fear to communal fear and to a united front is what makes this scene so essential, and this scene in a non-gross way brings forth the same point, which is the group is growing up, they're becoming adults, they're maturing, and they're doing this together. They are no longer alone, they are finding their people, and in doing so they are finding themselves, because at its core their greatest fears come back to one thing: an ignorance and curiosity of the world and who they truly are. A constant feeling of being lost, exactly what every teenager feels when we're on the cusp of turning from a child into an adult. It's a confusing time. Now, this reality of growing up is hitting them all like a moving train represented by Pennywise. So let's break down the scene. Now, the brilliance of this scene begins with its deceptively mundane setup. The group gathers in Bill's garage in broad daylight to piece together clues about Derry's dark history. They've recently discovered old photos and maps of the town, and they're trying to trace where Pennywise victims disappeared. It's really a great expositional tool and a moment in the film that any avid movie fan could pinpoint as the "oh shit, we're about to learn some stuff" scene. Through these old pictures, the kids begin to understand that Pennywise is not just a clown or a leper or whatever. They, with their childlike wonder and curiosity, unburdened by the closed-mindedness of adulthood or the innocence of a young child, they discover the truth because they are existing right there in that blink and you'll miss it moment between childhood and adulthood. This is what gives them the ability to discover that it is an ancient recurring evil tied to the very fabric of Derry, but also to the very fabric of what it means to be human. The images of the town's history flickering by show us that its evil presence has cursed and tainted the entire atmosphere of Derry and its people, making the people of Derry cruel and temperamental at all times, almost like a constant state of puberty. This scene's use of merging the expositional setup scene with the scene that cements the film's overarching theme of unity and embrace of reality was really well done. And the projector itself is used as a metaphor for how memory works. Fragmented images flashing by, seemingly out of control, blending moments of joy and pain. And Pennywise's insertion into the slideshow is symbolic of how trauma lurks and sometimes hides within our subconscious. And this is all foreshadowing the eventual forgetfulness of the group when they grow up and move away from Derry. And guys, I am so excited to show you this exclusive It parody merch that we designed for our merch store. We have this map of the Derry sewer system featuring Pennywise as Pac-Man, or you could get your official Losers Club membership shirt. There's also the It department, the Overlook Maze, and this carpet pattern from The Shining, and if you look close, you'll see that red rum is hidden in the pattern. We also have this Life of a Dancing Clown Taylor Swift parody, this Derry vintage clown costume. Links for all of these are below, and now you can become a store member to earn rewards and get free stuff. Shopping our merch store is a great way to support our channel. Thank you so much for your support. Now, back to what I was saying. Okay, so the projector begins to flicker on its own, and the losers realize that these images are morphing. Pennywise's face is gradually beginning to replace Bill's mother's face. This represents how Pennywise is not merely appearing, he is invading memory itself, distorting something sacred into something monstrous, just like it has done by tapping into the subconscious of each loser and exploiting their greatest fears and darkest secrets. The garage, previously a bright and open space, becomes this claustrophobic dungeon. The only illumination of light is coming from the projector itself, symbolizing that the loser's only way out is through Pennywise. This strobing light also foreshadows the dead lights, Pennywise's true form, that we end up seeing at the end of the film. Now, light, of course, also represents truth, the truth of what Pennywise is, the truth of his history, and the truth of how to stop him. It also represents how the kids must shine light on and accept their trauma and discomforts in order to beat Pennywise. They must face their fears head on to really grow up and become functioning and mentally stable adults. Really, this scene is an entire metaphor for coming of age and how scary it can be. And this contrast of dark versus light symbolizes ignorance versus truth and childlike innocence versus the reality of adulthood. The losers are beginning to see the truth of Derry's curse, but that illumination comes at a cost. To confront this light, the truth, it means they are going to have to expose themselves to the darkness behind it. Pennywise's growth in size is a literalization of that theme. The more they look at him, the bigger he becomes and the bigger their fear becomes. But again, going back to that moving train metaphor, a train coming at you is going to appear bigger and bigger the closer it gets. Now, when faced with a literal train, you need to just get the fuck out of the way. But with Pennywise, to truly defeat him, they have to let the train get bigger and bigger and hit them head on so that they can enter the mind of it, go beyond his monstrous facade and see it for what it truly is, the exact same way that it has entered them. After this scene, the losers can no longer retreat into denial of its existence. They can no longer run to their corners of loneliness. It is here, it is real, and there's no denying it or running away, despite that being its intentions. It wanted this scare to stop them from investigating it and drive the group apart, back to their homes, alone and scared. But little does Pennywise know that this scene has actually sealed his fate. His jump scare didn't break the group. It unified them. Pennywise, going from a mere image or a trick of the mind into a real, tangible, shared encounter, cements the realness of that evil, but it also makes him subject to the real world, aka they can beat the shit out of him. So this whole scare that Pennywise does to get them off his scent with the projector, it really backfires. And he really just should have eaten the kids instead of playing with his food so much. This scene is really showing us that Pennywise is reckless, and his desire for his food to become more and more tasty with fear is ultimately what creates the unstoppable force of the Losers Club that kick his ass twice. This scene is a transition moment for the film from a psychological horror to a group survival thriller. The projector scene represents the point of no return for the losers and for it. After this scene, there's no denying Pennywise's reality, and there is no more pretending that individual courage is going to be enough to defeat him. The losers are now forced to face this monster head on and together. And as for Pennywise, it's too late for him too. He can't just decide, oh, I'll back off and leave the losers alone now because they're getting close to defeating me. No, they are now determined. They are coming for it. It's no longer it that is doing the hunting, and it's no longer it that is doing the haunting. The losers have now flipped the script. And here's why the use of a projector in this scene was so brilliant. The slides, they move on their own, or by the control of it, which represents how trauma operates on its own within your mind without your consent. Pennywise's intrusion into these images represents that same invasion into their minds. And the use of the projector itself, something that displays slides and tells a linear story, is meant to depict how myths, rumors, and collective memories give shape to evil and fear. When it hijacks the projector, it is seizing control of the narrative, rewriting the loser's understanding of their world. This manipulation of narrative parallels how trauma distorts personal stories. Victims of trauma often struggle to remember trauma because their mind has suppressed it as a defense mechanism, but the rotting existence of that trauma still bleeds through, and the only way to defeat it is to reclaim the story and to control the projection rather than ignoring it or letting it control you. The projector scene also works as a mirror for the audience's own relationship to trauma. The flickering images, the sound of the slides clicking, they replicate the unpredictability of trauma itself and the way that trauma can suddenly break through without warning. In that sense, the audience is experiencing what the losers are experiencing, not just visually, but you can feel it. And that's what makes this more than a jump scare. So at its core, it is a film about the way fear distorts memory and shapes identity, and the projector scene represents that perfectly. The projected slides are literal images of the past, and when Pennywise infiltrates those images, the film is making the argument that fear lives in the past as much as it does in the present and in the future, as we've seen with Beverly's vision at the end of the film.
We were older. Our parents' ages. I just remember how we felt.
Childhood trauma doesn't just disappear, it lingers forever, and if not faced head on, it rots. This projector scene is also driving home the idea of seeing is believing, and how when you go from being a child to an adult, yes, you begin to see things more clearly in some ways, such as the embrace of reality and the possible, but you also lose your ability to embrace the unknown and the awe and wonder that children are more susceptible to. So again, the losers at this point in time are at this middle point where really they're able to take advantage of both mindsets. So in the future, the losers, they'll have to return to Derry as adults to confront the monster again, confront their past. And come the end of this first film, as the losers transition from kids to adults, they make that pact to come together again and defeat it if it returns. But really, they're making a pact to protect their future selves, and that camaraderie begins with this projector scene. Every major beat of this film can be linked back to this scene. It's where the losers transition from scared children to brave soldiers. Essentially, it represents their shared journey through puberty instead of giving us that unsettling on-the-nose sex scene like in the book. At its core, it is a film about the way fear distorts memory and can shape your identity. But hey, those are just my thoughts on what the most crucial scene from that 2017 It movie is. Let me know if you agree or if there's another scene from the film that you think is even more crucial to making the movie work. If you're new here, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell so you get notified every time we upload a new video, and be sure to tune in for our coverage of It, Welcome to Derry. For ScreenCrush, I'm Colton Ogburn.